Cody Alexander, match quarters. The 2022 draft class of corners was loaded. You had Stingley and Sauce at the top, McDuffie, who was later in the first round and who has just been an absolute workhorse for the Chiefs, being able to play inside and out. And then you had Elam at the end of the first round, who you could argue is the only bust in this class. He was supplanted by Benford, who was drafted in the sixth round. You have McCreary and Gordon, two of the top nickels in the entire NFL, taken. You have Booth, who probably you could argue is another bust, who was supplanted by Evans, who was drafted in the fourth round. Alontae Taylor has also become one of the better nickels in the NFL. This is your first and second round corners. In the fourth round, you're going to get Emerson, who we're going to talk about today, who has really, you could argue, has pushed Sauce as cornerback 1 and 1A in this class, along with probably Stingley and McDuffie right there underneath of them. You also have Jack Jones, who's become a top 25 corner in the NFL. Tarek Woolen, who is probably one of the best man corners in the NFL. McCollum starts for the Buccaneers. Bland just had a historic year in terms of interceptions returned for a touchdown and is probably arguably, again, one of the top man corners in the NFL. And then finally, you have Watson towards the end of the draft, who's going to be a starter for the Chiefs. And I'm leaving off Williams, who was also drafted by the Chiefs, who plays a ton for them too. So when you look at it top to bottom, this class was loaded. One of the most underrated players in this class is Emerson, who we're going to look at today. So let's look at his player profile, and then let's look at some clips and break down his technique. Emerson is your prototypical corner at 6'2", 200 pounds. He was drafted out of Mississippi State. He has a press rate that's right around 32%, so about a third of the time he's going to be in press. I have him as a number 7 corner in my composite ranking. As you can see, in terms of just when you break down how he is in coverage, he is elite in all his coverages. In fact, he is one of the best man corners in the NFL. And then on top of that, he's also a great zone corner. So again, he's in the top 10 of my composite rankings. He is considered a complete corner. He will also press. And again, he has a first down touchdown rate lower than 20%. This is a corner that has really come on. You could argue in the past 2 years that really him and Sauce Gardner out of this class have kind of become to the forefront of that, with probably Sauce being the most vocal in terms of who people are talking about. But Emerson has quietly put together a solid career in his 2 years. He dominates in that man scheme that they play in Cleveland. And let's look at his technique, because again, he is varied in his technique. He is not just a man guru like we saw in Tarek Woolen when I broke him down. This is a person that can play man and zone at an elite level. We're going to be watching Emerson up top against Pickens. We're going to get a fade route from him. Now, he gets caught looking inside to the ball. It's something when you're playing man coverage, you try not to watch the ball as it's coming off. But you can see, I think it was surprising for everybody. We get the right guard caught standing up. So at the beginning, you're going to get this little jab step. And I've been noticing a lot of the NFL corners now, they're going to actually get off about 2 yards from the receiver, and they're actually going to take a false step. But they're going to do it then. So instead of taking a pure step and getting their feet wider, they're actually going to take a little bit of a false step with the front foot and just kind of plant. And then that gets them moving backwards quickly. And you can see that he kind of catches himself, gets quickly back. You can see Pickens just kind of gives him a kind of a lazy plant and go. Emerson does a really good job of working at a 45-degree angle. So he's going to plant, he's going to kick step, open up once he sees that it's going to be a fade route, and then he's going to look down. Once he feels like he's in phase and he owns the red line, because essentially that's what he does. He owns the red line. Now, as a DB coach, you probably would like to see him get physically into the receiver, but he's going to see that, okay, I'm already on the red line. I know that this is a fade route. I'm going to go ahead and turn and become the receiver. And so you can see right here, this allows him really to kind of wall off. And this is a really good box out technique by the corner here. So he's going to actually work to the upper hip. He sees the ball is going to be behind it in a back shoulder, and you can see him just box out. And Pickens almost catches this on the sideline, but you can see the quarterback literally has to throw this out of bounds because he has nowhere else to go. So again, we're going to get that little kind of false step plant there, kick step. He's going to look at his eyes. They're down and on the hip the whole entire time. He understands that this is a fade route. So he says, you know what? I'm going to turn into the receiver. I see that it's a back shoulder fade, and I'm going to play box out. So it basically play basketball. Again, you would like to have a little bit more contact here, just so in case he gets both of his feet in and makes a spectacular catch, you're actually there for body presence. And so you really would like to see him kind of body the receiver up a little bit more. But again, just great technique on a fade route here by Emerson. We're going to watch another fade route here by Emerson. This is going to be against the Bengals T. Higgins. At the very top, you're going to notice again, we're going to get that little bit of a false step plant. So he's off by 2 yards. And I've noticed this as I've watched more and more NFL corners. He's going to be off by 2 yards. He's going to give a little slight jab, but notice how it's part of the kick step. He's not really taking a false step. He's not really rocking for it. Everything is just priming him to go backwards. So he gets into a kick step. I really like this step replace. He stays square. So Higgins is really just kind of getting a lazy off, and then he's given that kind of beating the drum, and then he's going to plant and drive. And you can see right here, his inside knee is going to be up. He's going to plant, and you can see that Emerson is kind of worked out. This is important because his divider actually should be outside alignment because we are going to have a closed post safety. So you can see again at the top, he's going to plant. He's going to shuffle, stay on top. Once he realizes, he kind of thinks, okay, maybe I'm going to get kind of a quick out, or maybe the thing's going to come out fast. He sees that it's a fade route, so he's going to plant. I really like how he gets contact on the pec, and then he's going to open up once he sees that. Now, again, you primarily would like to see a corner have a little bit more body contact. We don't want to constantly be taking things and turning them into track meets, but Emerson sees that what he has ownership of the route. He again is going to turn and become the receiver. And then this is where the back shoulder fade, this is where the body presence would really kind of help him out here a little bit. And then Burrow's actually going to throw the ball, kind of doesn't really throw a very good back shoulder fade, but kind of throws it above. And you can see Emerson has complete ownership of this pass, and really Higgins has to jump and kind of pop it out of the air so that Emerson doesn't end up getting a pick. This is another great fade route defended by Emerson. Again, punch the peck, run the route for the receiver, and then go and high point the ball. Now, here in the red zone, we're not going to get the false step. We're going to get a pure step. Now, what I really like is that he's kind of beating the drum with that right foot. So, again, he kind of gets caught watching the ball. I'd rather him watching the receiver, but he's quick enough and he's far off enough that he kind of understands how much time he's got. He's a little bit in no man's land, but in the low red zone, you're going to play catch technique. You can kind of be in no man's land. You have enough time to accelerate if you get beat on a fade route or kind of a vertical route, just because they don't have very far to go, right? They don't have a long way to go. It's not like a 30-40 yard pass that they can get on top of you. So you can see right here, he stays nice and square. He's going to beat that drum right there, pure step outside, stay on top. Once he gets that glass broken, right, the receiver is getting close to him. You can see that he's going to have a nice little kick step. Let Metcalf kind of do whatever he wants at the top of the route. Understand, too, where the pylon is and where the end zone is. This ball is on the 12, so he's going to break down at 6. That's probably not where that receiver wants to be. He's getting a vertical stem. He knows he has inside help. Remember, this is a by one formation. You can see the DB flash inside, so he can actually overplay any kind of out route, knowing that he's going to have slant help here underneath by number 1. So, again, you're going to see Metcalf come. He's going to kind of give you that stutter. That inside knee is going to be vertical. He's going to plant, and he's going to go to the sideline, working for that fade. You can see Emerson's going to kick step, open at a 45-degree angle, punch the peck, and get chest to chest. This is key. You want to lock your arms out. You want to get chest to chest so you can run through the receiver. You have every right to be there as much as the receiver. You can see that that's what he's going to do right there, and he's just going to run Metcalf out of the end zone. And so all Geno Smith has to do is essentially throw this out of bounds, because otherwise Emerson's going to be right there, and you can see where it hits. This is perfect technique from the beginning. We're going to pure step. So pure step, then work to a kick step, open up at a 45-degree angle, understanding the leverage player that I have underneath for any kind of slant route. I'm going to punch the peck, get chest to chest, and run the receiver out of the red zone. Here's a situation where we have a third and kind of medium to long. We're blitzing, right? And so we have man technique on all the DBs right here. So we're going to play catch technique like we saw in the previous clip, but we're going to play it a little bit more off because we're in the field. So he's actually going to step down and kind of hinge at a 45-degree angle. So if we get a hitch, he can drive on it. His feet are already primed for it. If we get some sort of stutter go vertical, he's already primed. This is going to be very similar, less aggressive way that you would teach like a trap technique in cover 2 when you're really going to step down and you're going to hinge down. So here we see at the snap of the ball, he's actually going to shuffle and he's going to step down and he's going to open at a 45-degree angle. Now, all the Jaguars are doing right here is saying, I don't think you can make a tackle. We're going to throw into an access space, and they're just going to run just kind of a stop slant. So you can see we get a stop. He's going to run a slant. It essentially becomes a de facto screen. Luckily, there's a DB right here that's going to be able, we can vice tackle this thing. So we end up having a 3-on-1 in terms of a blocker. And really, you end up having 4 guys right here. As he catches the ball, you can see Emerson's going to be right there to make the tackle. Probably a little bit high, but that's okay. But he gets him down for little to no gain. So let's watch the whole thing from the beginning. We're going to step down. We're going to prime our feet. We're going to step back once we see him, plant that foot. I'm going to mirror that plant that foot. I'm going to drive, take a look at where the ball is in case I can get there. Once I see that I can't, I'm going to get my eyes back to the receiver. I'm going to wrap and drive and get him to the ground. It's really good off-ball, quick game technique here by Emerson. Emerson is quickly becoming one of the top corners in the NFL, and he's in a system that allows him to be aggressive. They play a lot of cover 3 and they play a lot of cover 1, which means those corners are going to be isolated on outside receivers. He's also in a division that has really good quarterbacks and really good receivers. So he's being tested on a week-to-week basis, and he's really been able to answer the call. Like I said at the beginning, him and Sauce Gardner, you could argue in this class are the 2 top corners, with Stingley probably being right there at 3rd. I really like the way that he plays. He's quick twitched, especially for a 6'2", 200-pound corner. And he is the prototypical NFL corner. He's fun to watch. And in that Brown scheme, he is really allowed to excel. And in that man-heavy scheme, he is allowed to just blanket these receivers and do a really good job on and off the ball.